Have I seen anyone dressed as any of my characters at the convention? No. There's one, okay. I've seen a couple T-shirts and a few book bags. That's it. The literary track is bigger than it was the last time I was here. I figured out that I was last at Dragon Con the year it combined with NASPIC. Should have been early 90s, I guess. And I thought of it as a convention with no books because I wanted to do this enormous airplane hangar-sized cavernous dealer's room, and there was like one teeny little book dealer back against the wall in one corner who did not have my books. Always that. Yeah, but it's gotten a lot more active since then. A lot of people have been working on developing it, I guess. No. But I can handle John if I need to. I really need help there.
I don't really have a question. My mother asked me to say thank you for saving her sanity. She was in the hospital last year at back surgery and in a lot of pain, and she said the only thing that kept her sane was reading the Miles book.
Yeah, there are folks that work as analgesic fiction. That get you through the night while you're waiting for urgent care to open in the morning. It's a good use for literature. Which one, Chalium? Yeah. I don't know yet. I finished this book in June, and then I had 6 weeks of dental horsing around, and then we have this. So we're not. I haven't had my break yet, really. I don't really know what's going to be next.
I saw that on the Main Street Library that you have Two Mountains of Mourning. Has that had a significantly noticeable effect on your sales of your other books?
Yeah, the question is, does having the Mountains of Mourning in the Bain Free Library make a difference for sales? I don't know. Does anyone first read the Mountains of Mourning in the Bain Free Library? So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's 3 right there. It's another brick in the wall. It's a little step. I was talking with Tony about maybe finally letting her put the Warrior's Apprentice up. I need to talk to my agent about that too. Sort of part of the push for Cryoburn will be to bring the backlist out. The last book in a very long series, and we need to get people caught up. Fortunately, we've got a whole year to do it. There's a hand in the back, way in the back. Yell. Stand up and yell. Pink shirt. How does my world building work? Well, my world building is a little bit backwards. I tend to start with the characters and build the story, or build the world around them as the story moves along. I need a certain amount of scaffolding to start with, but it's usually not very filled in. I'll have some key elements. When I get a notion for a book, I've started with plot, I've started with character, I've started with setting, and they sort of all have to all three need to be developed to a certain minimum jumping off point level. Before I can actually start, chapter 1. So I don't have the Encyclopedia Barrierica in 30 volumes in my garage. Although people ask me questions as if I did, which is good. Which was okay earlier in my career, but it's now been, I wrote that book in 1983 in some cases, before some of you were born. So I don't remember all the details of how I arrived at what I arrived at. So it's not a very systematic sort of world building, and it makes sharing the world very difficult because I don't have all that material ready to trot out and give to a subordinate writer to boot up. What's in the books is what's set, and everything else can shift around behind the stage setting if I need it to. Much prefer it that way. Way back, gentlemen, 2 gentlemen, right, 1, 2, okay. Yeah, it kind of comes up according to the needs of the story. We tell you what you need to know. We imply that there's more out there. You guys do a lot of work making up my background, and the trick is to give you just enough information so that I give you a highlight and you fill in all the shadows yourself. because that's, that's what you have time for if the pacing isn't to become extremely clogged. So it will depend on how critical it is to the plot, what I need to know about it in order to know about what people are doing and what they're going to say next. I can't do dialogue until I've developed a character to a certain degree, because I don't know what they're thinking yet, where they're coming from. When I know them to the point where they can start speaking, then they become a character who can act in the story. Wait, yeah, let's jump first. Aha. I haven't seen that. The future is now. Yeah, we are living in the 21st century. Yes, just like in the story. Mostly, it's looking at what's now. My space opera backdrop. The physics is basically unobtainium. It's fairly generic. Now, the biotechnology is more nearly real science fiction, because it's based on real science and what I know about biology and medicine. So you will find that the space battle is about to take place, but suddenly the scene shifts to sick bay, where I'm on firmer ground. A lot of the biological technology, like the uterine replicators, comes from knowing a certain amount of background and making it up myself. I look in Cunningham's textbook of anatomy. I see how embryology works. I figure out the basics of the machine, and here you have the uterine replicator is presented in Ethan of Athos and referenced elsewhere. I'm not sure that I believe in the singularity. There's a lot of people are really excited about this, and I think amazing changes are going to happen, but not the way they think, because there's a biological growth curve. They're looking at the singularity as if it's a growth curve that goes off like that, but there are biological growth curves that look just like that and hit some limiting factor and then crash or drop or level off. And I think the biological growth curve may be a more potentially accurate vision for the future. AI, they keep talking about it. It's not there yet. We'll see. So some of what have become the standard tropes of modern SF I don't actually believe in. Some of what's in the Borkosigan universe is a little retro, because I started in the early 80s, and it was fresh then, but it's now 30, 20 years later. So it varies from kind of subject to subject. I am not a futurist. I'm mainly interested in exploring character psychology and maybe challenging them with new technologies. One of the things I watched when I worked as a hospital technician in my 20s was the biggest problem was bringing the interface of modern technology to the human body, which is this thousands, millions years old design, and getting it across the assorted barriers. The body hasn't changed that much, and it's going to be tricky. Retrofitting old computers with old computer programs that are buried under all those layers that drives people nuts. Biology works the same way. You've got to keep working with the old systems, because grandfather did.